So look here. One of the main issues where Ahlul Sunnah affirm Allah doesn't change is the issue of speech. They say Allah Ta'ala's speech is not hadith. Remember we talk about what hadith means, right? Hadith is what? Occurrence. What does an occurrence do? It comes into existence after non-existence. It begins to exist. Qadim is the opposite of that, right? Something that exists without a beginning, without a start. So, because of taking these literally, believing that they're not mutashabih, but they're actually muhkam, the literal meaning was intended, then that means then, the literal meaning as it applies to us is a temporal action of speech. I was silent, then I started talking. This is what we understand speech to be. Wasn't saying nothing, then I talked. So my speech is hadith. It happens after it was not happening. It's not eternal. So now, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, there was a big issue about the Quran or Allah Ta'ala's speech, Al-Quran being created. Makhluq. The other word hadith means the same as makhluq. Hadith comes into existence after non-existence. But in essence, hadith is created because it couldn't have come into existence by itself because it didn't exist yet. It couldn't have made itself exist. Something else had to make it exist. And that which made it exist created it. And the only one who truly does that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah ta'ala is the one who makes the hadith happen, and He's the creator of all the hawadith. And for this reason, created and hadith mean the same thing. Ahlul Sunnah do not differentiate between the two. Al-Imam Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari rahimahullah ta'ala said in his book called Maqalatul Islamiyyin, statements of the Islamic scholars that claim Islam or they attribute themselves to Islam. واتفق أهل الإثبات على أن معنى مخلوق معنى محدث ومعنى محدث معنى مخلوق وهذا هو الحق عندي وإليه أذهب وبه أقول. Now Ibn Taymiyyah says that Maqalatul Islamiyyin was one of the books that Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari made after he made his third change to being truly Ahlul Sunnah. He made Al-Ibana, Maqalatul Islamiyyin, Risala ila Ahl al-Thaghr. So this is one of the three books that they say, the Salafis say, Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari wrote after he became a true Sunni. Look what he says in this book. He says, the people of affirmation agree that the meaning of makhluq or created is the same meaning as muhdath. Muhdath means hadith, means something that exists after non-existence. وَمَعْنَى مُحْدَث مَعْنَى مَخْلُوق. And the meaning of muhdath is the same as makhluq. So created and coming into existence after non-existence mean the same thing to the people of Ahlul Sunnah. He said, وَهَذَا هُوَ الْحَقُّ عِنْدِي. And this is the truth as far as I'm concerned. وَإِلَيْهِ أَذْهَبْ. And this is my methodology, my madhab. وَبِهِ أَقُولُ. And this is my statement. Now, look, you heard what Al-Imam Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari said about this, right? Listen to what Waqi' ibn Jarrah, one of the teachers of Al-Imam al-Shafi'i, said, rahimahullah. He says, مَنْ قَالَ إِنَّ الْقُرْآنَ مَخْلُوقٌ. Whoever says that the Quran is created, فَقَدْ زَعْمَ أَنَّ الْقُرْآنَ مُحْدَثٌ. That person has claimed that the Quran is muhdath. It's coming into existence after non-existence. It's saying that whoever says the Quran is created, said that the Quran came into existence after it was non-existent. وَمَنْ زَعْمَ أَنَّ الْقُرْآنَ مُحْدَثٌ فَقَدْ كَفَرَ. And whoever says that the Quran is muhdath has disbelieved. Whoever says the Quran came into existence after non-existence has disbelieved. Meaning to say that Allah Ta'ala's speech is eternal, it's not created, it does not happen after, it does not come into existence after non-existence. That was in Sharh Usul I'tiqad Ahl Sunnah in the second volume, page 284. And in the one that I have, it's in the first volume on page 150, and is narration number 434. He also said, Al-Qur'anu kalamullah wa laysa min Allahi shay'un makhluq. The Qur'an is the speech of Allah, and nothing about Allah is created. Nothing from Allah Ta'ala is created. وَمَنْ قَالَ إِنَّ شَيْئًا مِنَ اللَّهِ مَخْلُوقٌ فَقَدْ كَفَرَ وَأَنَا أَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهَ مِمَّا كَانَ مِنِّي فِي الْمَجْلِسِ. He said, and whoever says that something of Allah is created has disbelieved. And I ask Allah's forgiveness for what has come from me in this gathering. And in another narration, he said the same thing as he said in the first one. Whoever said the Quran is created has said that the Quran is muhdath, and whoever says that the Quran is muhdath has disbelieved in what has been revealed to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he should be asked to make tawbah. So either he makes tawbah, or if not, his head should be cut off. Okay. Now, Al-Imam Ibn Khuzaymah also says, and this was a muhaddith that's considered to be a Salafi, and he made a book called Aqeedatul, which our ulama had criticisms for. And Al-Imam Fakhruddin al-Razi said it was Kitab al-Shirk and not Kitab al-Tawheed. Okay? But the point here is not that. The point is, look at what Ibn Khuzaymah said in his book. Al-Qur'anu kalamullah wa sifatun min sifati dhatihi. The Quran is the speech of Allah and a quality of Allah's essential qualities. Laysa shay'un min kalamihi makhluq wala maf'ul wala muhdath. Nothing of Allah Ta'ala's speech is created or done or made to exist after non-existence. وَمَنْ زَعْمَ أَنَّ شَيْئًا مِنْهُ مَخْلُوقٌ أَوْ مُحْدَثٌ أَوْ زَعْمَ أَنَّ الْكَلَامَ مِنْ صِفَةِ الْفِعْلِ فَهُوَ جَهْمِيٌّ ضَالٌ مُبْتَدِعٌ. And whoever says that anything of Allah's speech is created or made to happen after non-existence, or claims that Allah's speech is from His actions and not an eternal quality, but from Allah's action, like Allah does it after He wasn't doing it, that person is a Jahmi, is a dal, he's misguided, and he's an innovator, he's a mubtadi'. Now mind you, Ibn Taymiyyah in one of his books says that the kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is muhdathun fi dhatihi. It's muhdath in Allah's essence, is made to come into existence after non-existence in Allah's essence. So He speaks after He was not speaking. And like we said, Allah Ta'ala does not change. If Allah Ta'ala spoke after He wasn't speaking, then that would mean Allah Ta'ala changed. Look at what, from the Hanabila, an imam named Abul Hasan ibn al-Zaghuni, who died in 527. Ibn al-Zaghuni was one of the Hanbali imams that Al-Imam Ibn al-Jawzi refuted and accused of anthropomorphism in his book, Daf'u Shubh al-Tashbih, which is translated, Ustad Abdullah ibn Hamid Ali translated that as the attributes of God. Some of us may have that book. Ibn al-Jawzi rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the people he was refuting and coming back at was al-Zaghuni. Right? So Al-Imam Ibn al-Zaghuni says, now look, the anthropomorphists of that time, there's certain things that they didn't disagree with Ahlul Sunnah on that people disagree with now. Even though he said, even al-Jawzi said he was doing anthropomorphism, and he was saying things not from the Hanbali madhab. Even he didn't say certain stuff people are saying now. Look what he says. He says in his book, Al-Idah fi Usul ad-Din, the clarity and the foundations of the religion, on page 377. He says, لو كان كلام الله مخلوقا لم يخلو أن يكون مخلوقا في محل أو في لا محل أو لا في محل. فإن كان في محل فلا يخلو أن يكون محله ذات الباري أو ذاتا غير ذاته مخلوقة. If Allah's speech was created, the matter would only revolve around either that speech being created in an essence or not in an essence. If it was created in an essence, then that essence it was created in would either have to be Allah's essence, subhanahu wa ta'ala, or another essence that was created that Allah made. Like a person or a rock or a burning tree on the side of the mountain at Musa or something like that. But created in something else besides Allah Ta'ala's essence, alright? So it's saying that, وَمُحَالٌ, remember muhal means mustahil. وَمُحَالٌ أَن يَكُونَ خَلَقَهُ تَعَالَى فِي ذَاتِهِ. And it is impossible, it's mustahil, that Allah Ta'ala would have created His speech in His own essence. لِأَنَّ ذَلِكَ يُوجِبُ كَوْنَ ذَاتِهِ تَعَالَى مَحَلًّا لِلْحَوَادِثِ. Because that would necessitate Allah Ta'ala's essence being prone to activity. وَهَذَا مُحَالٌ اتَّفَقَتِ الْأُمَّةُ قَاطِبَةً عَلَى إِحَالَتِهِ. And this is mustahil, this is impossible. The whole ummah, اتَّفَقَتِ الْأُمَّةُ قَاطِبَةً, the whole ummah has agreed عَلَى إِحَالَتِهِ, about its impossibility. So it's impossible that Allah create His speech in Himself, make Himself speak after not speaking. This is impossible. Because Allah Ta'ala doesn't change. And that would necessitate change. That would mean He changed from not speaking, from silence, to talking. And this is impossible. The Hanbalis say it, we say it, everybody says it, except for Ibn Taymiyyah and his school. This is what he said. He said the whole ummah agrees that this is impossible. Look at what Imam al-Haramain, Abu al-Ma'ali al-Juwayni, who died 479. Remember, Az-Zaghuli died 527. Imam al-Haramain, 479. So he says, the same example. He says in his book, لمع الأدلة في قواعد أهل السنة في قواعد أهل السنة والجماعة, page 109. He says, وَالرَّبُّ تَعَالَى وَالرَّبُّ سُبْحَانَهُ وَتَعَالَى, and the Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala is sanctified from accepting activity or being like changing, having changes happen with Him, and occurrences occur with Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, وَاتَّفَقَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ أَهْلُ الْمِلَلِ وَالنِّحَلِ. He said, and all of the groups, all of the different sects, all of the denominations agree upon this fact, that Allah Ta'ala is free from accepting hawadith. This issue is called mahallul hawadith. Allah Ta'ala being prone to accepting occurrences or not. Mahallul hawadith. Allah is not mahallul hawadith. He is not prone to accepting hawadith, occurrences and activity and actions happening with Him after they were not happening. So he says, what? Who did he say agrees on that? Who did he say agrees on that? What we just said. Huh? All the different sects, all the 73 sects, all the denominations agree on this fact. No one disagrees with this. Then he says, وَخَالَفَ إِجْمَاعَ الْأُمَّةِ طَائِفَةٌ نَبَغُوا مِنْ سِجِسْتَانَ لُقِبُوا بِالْكَرَّامِيَّةِ. And a group that rose up from Sijistan called the Karramiyah broke the ijma' of the whole ummah on this. خَالَفَ إِجْمَاعَ الْأُمَّةِ. They broke the ijma' of the ummah on this. فَزَعَمُوا, so they claimed أَنَّ الْحَوَادِثَ تَطْرَأُ عَلَى ذَاتِ الْبَارِ. They claim that hawadith, occurrences, events, activity, actions happen with Allah's essence subhanahu wa ta'ala, and qawlihim, exalted is Allah from what they say. وَهَذَا نَصُّ مَذْهَبِ الْمَجُوسِ. And this also is the same madhab of the fire worshippers. وَالدَّلِيلُ عَلَى اسْتِحَالَةِ قِيَامِ الْحَوَادِثِ بِذَاتِ الْبَارِ تَعَالَى أَنَّهَا لَوْ قَامَتْ بِهِ لَمْ يَخْلُ عَنْهَا وَمَا لَمْ يَخْلُ عَنِ الْحَوَادِثِ حَادِثٌ. And the proof that Allah Ta'ala, the proof that it's impossible that hawadith would happen with Allah's essence is that if it happened with His essence, His essence would never be free from them. And whatever is not free from hawadith is also hadith. Whatever is not free from occurrences and temporalities is also temporal. So if it had things happening with it after they were not happening, then it had to always have been like that. And if that was the case, then it would also be something that happened after non-existence. It would also be temporal. Ibn Qayyim himself, Ibn Qayyim, the student of Ibn Taymiyyah, in the beginning of his career, in the early part of his career, made a book called Hidayatul Hayara fi Raddi ala al-Yahudi wal Nasara, the guidance of the confused people in refuting the Jews and the Christians. In this book, on page 368, he said, وَجَمِيعُ النُّبُوَّاتِ, and all of the prophets, مِنْ أَوَّلِهَا إِلَى آخِرِهَا مُتَّفِقَةٌ عَلَى أُصُولٍ. All of the messages of the prophets from the first to the last agree on certain principles. He said, وَالرَّابِعِ, number 4, أَنَّهُ لَا يَتَغَيَّرُ, that Allah does not change. He had a career before he met Ibn Taymiyyah and after he met Ibn Taymiyyah. It's most likely that this was before Ibn Taymiyyah. Because in all his books, he mentions Ibn Taymiyyah a lot. After he came in contact with him, he mentions Ibn Taymiyyah throughout his books and says, قال شيخ الإسلام وقال شيخ الإسلام وقال شيخ الإسلام وقال شيخ الإسلام يذكر شيخ الإسلام شيخ الإسلام said شيخ الإسلام said شيخ الإسلام said Ibn Taymiyyah. In this book, he hardly mentions Ibn Taymiyyah. I think he maybe mentions him maybe one time in the very beginning, and that was it. Yet Ibn Taymiyyah also has a book talking toward the Jews and Christians that he seemed to not have used for his book that he made. So the thing is that most likely this book was in the beginning or the early part of his scholastic career as a scholar. Okay? He said that Allah does not change. وَلَا تَعْرُضُ لَهُ الْآفَاتُ مِنَ الْهَرَمِ وَالْمَرَضِ وَالسِّنَةِ وَالنَّوْمِ وَالنِّسْيَانِ. And none of the deficiencies occur for him, like old age or sickness, sleepiness and tiredness, or sleep or forgetfulness. وَالنَّدَمْ وَالْخَوْفِ وَالْهَمْ وَالْحُزْنِ وَنَحْوِ ذَلِكَ. Or sorrow or fear or worry and anxiety or grief and the likes of these. And then he said at the end of this, because this was only number 4, I think he mentioned about, I don't remember how many, but at the end of them he said, فَهَذَا مِمَّا اتَّفَقَتْ عَلَيْهِ جَمِيعُ الْكُتُبِ وَالرُّسُلِ. And these things I mentioned are what all of the books and messengers agreed upon. وَهُوَ مِنَ الْمُحْكَمِ الَّذِي لَا يَجُوزُ أَن تَأْتِيَ شَرِيعَةٌ بِخِلَافِهِ. And he said, and this is muhkam. This is something clear cut that Allah doesn't change. And what I mentioned in those things I numbered is from the muhkam that is not possible that any sharia from Allah would disagree with. وَلَا يُخْبِرُ نَبِيٌّ بِخِلَافِهِ أَصْلًا. And no prophet would ever say or report to his nation different from this in the first place. فَتَرَكَ الْمُمَثِّلَةُ عُبَّادُ الصَّلِيبِ هَذَا كُلَّهُ. So the likeners of Allah to the creation, the worshippers of the cross, have left all of this, all of the clear-cut things that were mentioned, including Allah not changing. وَتَمَسَّكُوا بِالْمُتَشَابِهَ مِنَ الْمَعَانِي وَالْمُجْمَلِ مِنَ الْأَلْفَاظِ. And they clung on to the mutashabih, the ambiguous from meanings, and the general from words. General words and ambiguous meanings. وَأَقْوَالِ مَنْ ضَلُّوا مِنْ قَبْلُ وَأَضَلُّوا كَثِيرًا وَضَلُّوا عَنْ سَوَاءِ السَّبِيلِ. Then he just quoted the verse of the Quran and mentioned something like this, that they took the words of the people who went astray before them, and they misled many other people, and they themselves strayed away from the straight path. And he says here, وَأُصُولُ مُثَلِّثَةً. Oh, I said mumathila before. I meant muthalitha. He said that the people who believe in the Trinity, they left all of this stuff, not the ones liking Allah to the creation, but the people who believe in the Trinity. Then he says later, the foundations of the people who believe in the Trinity and their statement about the Lord of the worlds goes against all of this totally, and totally disagrees and is in conflict with what was mentioned, which includes Allah Ta'ala changing. So when we say that this is tashbih, this is the belief of the Christians, this is what the non-Muslims say about Allah, that they believe Allah Ta'ala is a changing God. The one who says this now from the Muslims, by Ibn Qayyim's own testimony, they have agreed with the Christians about this type of thing. Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, rahimahullah ta'ala, also believe Allah didn't change, or does not change. Ismail ibn Fulan al-Tirmidhi said a poem to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal when he was incarcerated. He mentioned a poem that had these 2 lines. وَلَوْ وَصَفَ النَّاسُ الْبَعُوضَةَ وَحْدَهَا بِعِلْمِهِمُ لَمْ يُحْكِمُوهَا وَقَصَّرُوا فَكَيْفَ بِمَنْ لَا يَقْدِرُ الْخَلْقُ قَدْرَهُ وَمَنْ هُوَ لَا يَفْنَى وَلَا يَتَغَيَّرُ. And if the people altogether were to describe the mosquito, only the mosquito alone, with their knowledge, they would not give it its proper due, and they will fall short. So how about the one who the creation does not know how great he is, and one who will never end and never change? وَمَنْ هُوَ لَا يَفْنَى وَلَا يَتَغَيَّرُ. لَا يَتَغَيَّرُ. He does not change. Ibn al-Qayyim says about this same poem, after he mentioned the part of it that he believes agrees with his own creed, he says, and he mentioned Ibn Fulan al-Tirmidhi mentioned the whole poem, and it is from the best of poems. No one from the people of the hadith disagree with anything of it. but they praised the person who said this poem and spoke highly of him, meaning Ibn Fulan al-Tirmidhi. He mentioned this in Ijtima' al-Juyush al-Islamiyya. So this is one narration that proves that Imam Ahmad believed also Allah doesn't change. Because when this man said this poem to him in his prison, he didn't afterwards correct him and say, no, you said something that disagrees with the principles of Islam. Allah does change, because he made istiwa on the throne after he wasn't making istiwa, and he descends every night, and he goes up and he gets angry and he becomes happy, and these are all changed. He didn't say that. He left it, he didn't say anything. Now look what Abul Fadl al-Tamimi, again, the one who 50,000 people made the funeral prayer for, buried next to Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Look what he says in his book, the same book that we held up a little while ago, this book right here, on page 22. اعتقاد الإمام المنبل أبي عبد الله أحمد بن حنبل. He says on page 22, والله تعالى لم يلحقه تغير ولا تبدل. And Allah Ta'ala, he's talking about the istiwa now. After he mentioned the istiwa, he said Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no change at all happened with Allah. No alteration or change happened with Allah. Nor did any limits or boundaries happen to him before he created the throne or after he created the throne. This book was written to explain the Aqeedah of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. What is he saying in this, y'all? What is he saying? He said Allah Ta'ala, before and after he created the throne, he's the same. He didn't change. And nor did he have limits before or after he created the throne. So Allah is the same before and after. That's not the same as somebody who's saying that before he created the throne, he was somewhere, then after he created the throne, he became on top of the throne. It's not the same. Al-Qadi al-Sharif Abu Ali al-Hashimi al-Hanbali died 420 after the Hijrah. He was also a Hanbali scholar. He says in his book of Aqeedah, he says, أن الله تعالى واحد أحد فريد صمد لا يغيره الأبد. Allah Ta'ala is one and single. He's unique. He's a Samad, the one that all depend upon. لا يغيره الأبد. The eternity does not change him. Eternity does not change Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning that throughout eternity, Allah Ta'ala is the same. He's never changed. Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la, basically the founder of the Hanbali madhab, one of the first fuqaha to really make the Hanbali books of fiqh and stuff like that and organize the Hanbali madhab. He's considered to be one of the founding fathers of the Hanbali madhab. Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la, also refuted by Ibn al-Jawzi in his book. He was refuting Al-Qadi Abu Ya'la al-Hanbali also in that book because of saying certain things that had anthropomorphic connotations in them. But look what he says about Allah Ta'ala not changing. His son says about him, وَقَدْ قَالَ الْوَالِدُ السَّعِيدُ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ فِي أَخْبَارِ الصِّفَاتِ. And my beloved, auspicious father, may Allah be pleased with him, said concerning the reports of Allah's qualities, وَاللَّهُ لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ ولا يوصف بصفات المخلوقين الدالة على حدثهم ولا يجوز عليه ما يجوز عليهم من التغير من حال إلى حال ليس بجسم ولا جوهر ولا عرض وأنه لم يزل ولا يزال. He says, my father says about Allah that there's nothing like Allah, and Allah Ta'ala is not described with the qualities of the creations that indicates their temporality, nor is it possible for him what is possible for them, including changing from state to state. He is not a physical body, nor a substance, nor an accident. He always existed and will always exist. Abu al-Khattab al-Kalwadani, the Hanbali that was said that he was an Ash'ari, right? His students said about him that he was an Ash'ari, although he's a Hanbali. What did he say? He said in a poem he made on the Hanbali Aqeedah, or I guess you could say Ash'ari now because they say he's an Ash'ari. So the Hanbali Ash'ari, the Hanbali Aqeedah, which agrees with the Ash'aris and the Maturidis. They said, قالوا فهل تصف الإله أبن لنا قلت الصفات لذي الجلال السرمدي قالوا فهل تلك الصفات قديمة كالذات قلت كذاك لم تتجددي. They said, asking me, do you affirm qualities for Allah? Clarify this for us. I said, qualities are affirmed for Allah, the one whose majesty is everlasting and eternal. They said, are those qualities eternal like qadima? Are they unchanging and eternal without occurrence? Like Allah's essence, كذات, like Allah's essence? قُلْتُ كَذَاكَ لَمْ تَتَجَدَّدِ. I said, thus is so, they are never renewed. They are never occurring and renewed and such like this and happening over again. He also said, وَقَالَ أيضا, in the same poem he said, قَالُوا فَمَا الْقُرْآنُ قُلْتُ كَلَامُهُ مِنْ غَيْرِ مَا حَدَثٍ وَغَيْرِ تَجَدُّدِ. They said, what is the Qur'an? I said, his speech without any temporality or renewal, meaning change, is his eternal speech, subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do all these quotes prove, y'all? They don't believe Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala is mahallul hawadith. Ibn Zaghuni again, he said that Allah ta'ala is not mahallul hawadith. I mean, the quotes go on and on. And I don't want to bring 100 quotes. The point that we're making then is that the Hanbali methodology was that Allah ta'ala is not mahallul hawadith. This means then that the descriptions of Allah that seem to affirm actions for Allah that would affirm changing to one state after another state, those are not understood literally by the Hanabila, because they already believe Allah Ta'ala is not such that has occurrences happening and changes happening with him. So he doesn't change, making istiwa, making the descent and all that. These are eternal descriptions that mean something else, but they don't mean Allah Ta'ala changes. Ever heard of Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali? Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali, popular Imam. The Fath al-Bari was actually the explanation of Bukhari. That was the name that Ibn Rajab gave to his explanation of Sahih al-Bukhari before Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar rahimahullah. Fath al-Bari. Ibn Rajab was a student of Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. He was a student of Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. Look what he says in a book of his called Istikhraj al-Jidali min al-Quran al-Kareem. Taking out arguments, the extraction of arguments from the glorious Quran or the noble Quran. He says in that book about Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, that when he saw the stars and such like this, go away. Then he saw the sun. He said, this is bigger. Then that also set. So he said that I don't love things that, that go away or that set or such like this. This is what he said. So he said that, explaining this story, he said, فَلَمَّا أَفَلَ أَدْرَكَ نَقْصَهُ وَعَيْبَهُ. So when it set, he said, right, when the sun set, when the stars set, he realized their deficiency and the faults, or basically the same thing. He saw the deficiency in these creations. لأن الأفول تغير, because setting is a change. For the sun or a star to set is a change. وتغير حدوث, and change is a temporality. والكامل, and the one who is perfect, لا يجوز عليه الحدوث. The one who is perfect, it is not possible for him to have temporalities or changes. لأنه صانع الحدوث, because he is the creator of temporalities and changes. Allah creates changes. He brings changes into existence after non-existence. Therefore, he cannot create them, and he cannot be a creation and create them in himself. He cannot be having qualities that are created when he's a creator of all qualities that the creations have. Mar'i ibn Yusuf al-Hanbali, another great Hanbali scholar, he says in his book called Bahjatul Nadirin wa Ayatul Mustadillin. These are all Hanbalis. Who am I quoting here? Hanbali scholars. Because when they say that are the Ash'aris from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they're really trying to say, is it from the Aqeedah of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah that Allah does not change? They're trying to throw doubt on that, as if to say Allah can change. Or it's possible that Allah Ta'ala changes. This is what they're trying to say. This is where that question comes from. Is it possible for Allah to be a body? Is it possible for Allah to change? This is like the same question as saying, are the Ash'aris from Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah? Because that's all they disagree with us on. Allah changing, being in a place, being in a location, moving, coming, going, becoming angry, becoming happy, and all this kind of stuff. This is what this is all about. And these are the Hanbali scholars from previous earlier times and later times disagreeing with that. And affirming what the rest of Ahlul Sunnah say. Allah is not prone to activity. Allah is not prone to changes. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is not subject to change, to activity, to movement, stillness. Anything that happens after it was not happening is not a quality of Allah or action of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It happens with the creations, not with Him. Abul Hasan al-Ash'ari, rahimahullah ta'ala, when he explained istiwa, he said that فَعَلَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى فِعْلًا فِي الْعَرْشِ سَمَّى بِهِ نَفْسَهُ مُسْتَوِيًا. Allah Ta'ala did an action to the throne by which He affirmed istiwa for Himself. Which is to say, Allah didn't do something with Himself, because if a person, one of us sits down, he moved his body and sat his behind down on a chair or on the ground or something. That means that he did something with himself. So Abul Hasan, because he's on the Aqeedah of the rest of Ahlul Sunnah, as y'all can see by these statements and these quotes, he believes Allah doesn't change. So he's saying that Allah did an action to the throne, not to Himself. He did an action to the throne. Because of that action He did to the throne, He ascribed istiwa to Himself. He attributed istiwa to Himself and said, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa. Look what Mar'i ibn Yusuf al-Hanbali said in his book, Bahjatul Nadhirin wa Ayatul Mustadillin. He said in this book, which is still not printed, like I said, these books is going to take forever to get these books printed. These books, they come out real late, and then they don't get promoted. They don't, it's very hard to find them. They don't even have a table of contents. The typos are enormous. وَهُوَ صِفَةٌ لَهُ فِي ذَاتِهِ. It should be خَالَفَ بِهِ الْبَكَمْ, but it says جَاءَ بِهِ إِلَيْكُمْ. You see, this is the type of print, the misprints they have in here. There's I like writing out, erasing stuff and writing in the hamish and the footnote like the real, you know what I'm saying? Why is this? Because not the same care and concern is not given to these books like the books of Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim in them. Those books are reviewed and checked by a lejna, a committee of scholars, a panel of scholars checking these books and making sure that they edit it the right way and give a table of contents, mention all the cities mentioned and all the scholars' names and all the hadiths and all the ayats of Quran. You look in the back, the appendix is as thick as the book. And the preface is as thick as the book. The book is 15 pages, but the preface is 50 pages, and the end of the joint, is appendix is like another 30 pages. But this joint don't even got table of contents. This is what I'm talking about. So this book, Mar'i ibn Yusuf al-Hanbali, rahimahullah, his book is still a manuscript. It's not even in print yet. But look what he says in that book. He says, وَعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْعَالَمَ كُلَّهُ مُحْدَث. And know that the whole world is muhdath, meaning that it came into existence after non-existence. وَقَدْ أَجْمَعَ أَهْلُ الْحَقِّ عَلَى حُدُوثِهِ إِذْ هُوَ مُتَغَيِّرٌ وَكُلُّ مُتَغَيِّرٍ حَادِثٌ. He said, because the people of the truth have ijma', have consensus on it being temporal, on it coming into existence after non-existence. إِذْ هُوَ مُتَغَيِّرٌ, because it changes. وَكُلُّ مُتَغَيِّرٍ حَادِثٌ. And everything that changes is temporal. Everything that changes is existing in time. Everything that changes is a temporality, is something that itself came into existence after non-existence. Because the things that are happening with it also came into existence after non-existence. So that means that the whole thing must be temporal. It can't be eternal, yet it has temporalities. Either it's eternal or it's temporal. If it's eternal, it has eternal qualities. And nothing about it or its qualities are temporal. But if it's temporal, it has temporal qualities. For example, each of us, we have qualities of sight, qualities of hearing, quality of life. Those qualities are temporal. They started when we began to exist. Before we existed, we didn't have sight or life or hearing because we didn't exist. We can only have those qualities after existence. So those qualities are temporal like we are temporal. وقد ثبت بالدلائل القطعية امتناع القول بوجود حوادث لا أول لها. And it has been affirmed and established with clear-cut proofs and evidences the impossibility of there being hawadith without a first, meaning creations without a first creation, going back into the past without a beginning. This is the issue of eternal regression, meaning that things progress into the future eternally in paradise and hellfire. They will progress eternally into the future. But what Ibn Taymiyyah also said was that things could regress eternally also into the past. This is an impossibility that the whole ummah agrees is impossible. And we talked about this before. Did anyone want me to repeat that? To make that clear? You say that real quick? Maybe somebody wasn't at that class. I can clarify. You like me to clarify? Okay, check it out. If we were to say that every single black person is created, right? But the black race is eternal. There is no first black man. There had to always be a black man somewhere in space in the universe somewhere. Allah Ta'ala couldn't have been existing without no black dudes someplace, man. There had always been Allah and a black man somewhere. What would a person say to somebody like that? See, that person is a zindiq. That person's a heretic, an innovator. It's not possible that, there's a beginning to the black race. It can't be that every black person was created, but the whole black race as a whole becomes uncreated or without a beginning. Anytime you have a group, the group is only an expression of each part of it. If each part came into existence, the whole group came into existence after non-existence. The group cannot be eternal where every piece of it has a beginning, every part of it has a beginning. Just like if a person had 1,000 grapes, they'd still be grapes. If it had 1,000,000 grapes, it'd still be grapes. If it was 1,000,000,000,000 grapes, it wouldn't become apples, it'd still be grapes. If every single thing had a beginning, that chain cannot go back into the past without a beginning. It has to have a beginning because each part of it has a beginning. Each part of it has a beginning. And not only that, anything that begins, any group of things that each of them have a beginning, it's impossible for them to go back without a beginning because why? They themselves have a number. They themselves, the fact that they're starting and they exist in time, means then that there's a time that preceded that has to stop at a certain time. Or else, you would say then that if time was eternally going on without a beginning, endless time was happening. If it's endless, then how did it end? Because the present time we're in right now is the end of the past. If the past continued and continued and continued without an end, how did the present get here? Because that which does not end, if it's going in the past endlessly, that means it's infinite. If it's infinite, then the present time can never come because the end never ended. The past never ended. An example we gave of that when we gave the Aqeedah class on Point Breeze, right, in 2009 when we was talking about the same issue. We gave an example that one sheikh mentioned about how if time was if there was infinite time before the time of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, that time before Nuh alayhi salam was infinite. And no beginning to that time. And then Nuh alayhi salam time came. Between the time of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam and the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam is thousands of years. But still, we would say then that the time before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam also was endless. So then, the time of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam would have added that thousands of years to the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. How could something that's infinite have something else added to it? And how can one infinity be more than the other infinity, time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam time, be longer than the time of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam's time when they're both infinite? How can anything that's infinite have something longer than it? Nuh alayhi salam, okay, Prophet Muhammad sometime till now. 1432 years after the Hijrah. How could you add 1432 years to eternity? So that the time of Prophet Muhammad's time was endless time before that, and it's endless time before now, but this endless time is longer than that endless time. It doesn't make any sense. Because if it's endless, it should be infinite. If it's infinite, nothing can be bigger than it. And one infinity cannot be bigger than another infinity. So then that means then that it is based on time, and time itself has a beginning. Time began when Allah created the first creation. With the first creation, time started. But Allah Ta'ala himself is not in time. Time is a measurement between actions. Like on the ground, we have a measurement between two areas. It's called space. We call that an area. Inches, meters, miles, such like this. The measurement between two areas. This point A and point B. Time is the same thing. One action is point A. The second action is point B. So based on actions happening in time, that's how time is measured. With Allah, Allah is unchanging. He never changed. So time didn't apply to him because there was the eternal, unchanging Allah with his eternal and unchanging qualities. So there was no meaning of time because there was no changes happening until Allah created the universe. Then they changed from non-existence to existing, and then have been changing ever since. Getting older, moving, stopping, eating, drinking, sleeping. And now we know Allah Ta'ala made the universe based on atoms and particles and such. And those are always moving. They're too small for us to see their movements, but scientists have said that atoms have electrons and protons that constantly move. So then the universe is always in motion. The creations have always been moving. We're moving all the time, even if it looks like we're still moving. But Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, there is no occurrence with him, so there is no time with him. So time starts with the creation of the universe. And it cannot go that creations or actions happen back in the past without a beginning, eternally happening in the past. As this Hanbali scholar, Mar'i ibn Yusuf al-Hanbali himself, he said. And inshallah, what time is it? How much time we got left till Isha? All right. So you know what, brothers and sisters? This is not the end of this class. This is scratching the surface. There are more issues to be dealt with. Why are we making these negations? To show clearly and prove to people that certain individuals who claim the Hanbali madhab are not adhering to certain principal aspects of the Hanbali madhab that were accepted and known up until now. As they say, the truth will set you free. Knowledge is power. Is empowering, because by knowing the truth, see people saying that be tolerant by not knowing the truth, by not knowing the differences of opinion, by not knowing the statements. No, know those statements that are different so you know what you're tolerating. Just make dua for them, ask Allah Ta'ala to teach them and guide them to what Allah Ta'ala has taught us and guided us to. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله تعالى لي ولكم. May Allah Ta'ala forgive me for anything that was said wrong and give us tawfiq to benefit from the best of what was said and allow us to come back again to continue. Jazakumullahu khairan.